Today we're going to find out how to save money on traveling. I make sports travel content, and to keep up with posting, I've gone to over 300 unique locations since July 2023. I get asked a lot on how this is affordable, and I promise it can be done. Saving money traveling takes some experience. I've racked up a lot of it, and for the first time in this video, you're going to go wire to wire with me on an entire trip. We're going to 5 professional sporting events in 4 days with the highs, the lows, and some takes from each venue. And just to make it a little bit more interesting, we're not using the car the whole time. That's right, I will be attempting to go through the entire state of California without renting a car or getting any Ubers. I'll be documenting how much we saved along the way, comparing how much it would have cost to rent a car, get Ubers, get nice hotels, and what we actually did to cut costs. This is extreme savings, and I don't actually recommend traveling like this. Even I usually don't go this extreme, and it for sure made the trip less fun. But this video needed an interesting hook, and the US government is banning my main source of income pretty soon here, so pinching pennies won't kill me either. It also won't hurt you to like and subscribe to our new #1 platform for my content so we can keep more money coming in. Appreciate y'all. We're going to start at my home base of Chicago on the Blue Line train to the airport. This is a $3 ticket. Ubers from the city to O'Hare are usually $30-35. It was $28 when I checked. That's $25 saved before we even leave the city. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Ubers to and from the airport are the most overlooked expense of any trip. Solid public transit to replace it is huge. Once we get to the airport, we face our first real expense, getting a ticket from Chicago to LA for $187. I probably could have gotten these a little cheaper as I bought the ticket a little over a week before I took off, but we'll live with it. LAX is typically where we would run our car, which was going to be $340 for a 5-day trip or $68 for each day. But since we opted out of the car, when we landed at LAX, we actually took a 2.5-mile walk from the airport to where we're staying for the night. This avoids the $22 Uber I'm assuming most people would take. We're tallying that up too. Is it a little ratchet to walk out of the airport? Yeah, but I'm living in the Chicago winter. It's 62 degrees out here. I could use a couple miles. Also, shout out LAX for making walking from the airport doable. Not many cities have crosswalks this close to the stop. I found out later there's a bus I could have shaved off like 75% of my walk, but $1 saved is $1 earned, and that's getting paid $1.75 to burn off my McDonald's breakfast. Off to our first stop at the brand spanking new Intuit Dome, home of the LA Clippers. I already posted some content from most of these places, but you really can't take in the full experience from How Long Can I Stay video. The Intuit Dome, for what my money's worth, is one of the best, if not the best, experience to watch an NBA game right now. You can tell fan experience is really prioritized. It sounds dumb to say, but it is refreshing seeing an NBA franchise put engaging fans into the game first. The wall was a little bit smaller than I expected it to be. Either that or just the fans in the front were the only ones truly bought into it. But the Clippers aren't the only team that has a dedicated hardcore fan section. I've watched games with Turner's Block in Indiana before, and I've met the Clutch crew in Milwaukee. All these programs are really cool, but those fans don't get seats right in front of the action, and it does make a difference at Intuit. Things I also liked was a true indoor-outdoor setup, something completely unique to the Clippers, and the Jumbotron is floating heads of the Clippers on the floor instead of written names. It's the little things. My biggest gripe was this a bit of a learning curve being there your first time. You have to download the Clippers app to get into the stadium, and that made getting in take a while. Downloading apps outside of an arena with no Wi-Fi is up there with the most annoying things imaginable. This is the worst way to get into an arena imaginable. And even after doing all of that, I still could not get scans. I had to go to this like Apple service bar type place to work on the tech to get into the stadium. Once I finally got in, we paid $49 for our ticket, which isn't super cheap, but it's about half the cost of going to an average Lakers game in a better arena, so we'll take it. And we also stayed actually reasonable walking distance from the arena since we didn't have a car, so we're gonna call that $20 saved on parking. I didn't look up parking prices for a car that I didn't have, so we're gonna call parking $20 at every place. I know some are more, some are less. It's close enough. Only thing I don't love is I don't think Inglewood is the best area of LA. Don't feel super safe on this walk, but we're on a pretty busy street. Gotta give me fast feet to run with if I need them. LA was definitely the most ideal place to not have a car on this trip, as there was a lot of lodging options close to the airport and the stadiums. But where I stayed, I'm actually embarrassed to show this place, it was that bad. So we're coming out on the place we're staying at, and I spent an egregiously low amount of money on this, and my expectations were on the floor. I'm hardly ever in my hotel room, so the really big cities I'll really cheap out and get hostels. And they'll usually be like $40-50. There's no space, of course, but the building staff's usually pretty nice. But this place I got for $26 in LA. This is gonna be rough. Here is Mikasa for the next 2 days. This could pass as somebody's house. I have no idea how this is on Expedia. No bedroom shots because people are using them, of course, but yeah. I won't show you any more than this. My association with any place this heinous begins and ends with this trip. But it was $26 a night in the heart of LA, so we will too let this pass. The cheapest halfway decent hotel by me was $85 a night, and the cheapest one if I drove out a little bit with the car was $67. This is also calculated after the North Palisades fire that I just missed by 1 single day. That probably tanked the prices we're looking at, but these are just hypotheticals. We'll roll with it. Overall, after day 1, total cost with the car is $394. If I was a normal person using hotels and Ubers, it would have been $371. And doing what I actually did, I spent a grand total of $265. Over $100 savings in one night. Not too bad. Day 2, we wake up in hell on earth, and I realized something I genuinely did not think about until that day. I've been so not focused on going to NFL games this fall, I completely forgot to check if the Rams or Chargers are even home. And having 2 teams, of course, one of them is, and they play right next to the Intuit Dome. And since the Rams already clinched the division, these tickets are dirt cheap. I want to go to every stadium in the country, and it's probably never going to happen again that I can go to SoFi Stadium, get a $33 ticket, not pay for parking, and walk straight from my hotel to the stadium. It was a push to make a 1:30 game while also going to the Anaheim Ducks game at 5 p.m., but we swung it. I've never been to SoFi. I'm never ever going to SoFi again for less money. I didn't realize SoFi has a tail. You have like the whole bowl of the stadium right here, and then you have this whole thing that extends what looks like further than the length of the stadium. This looks absolutely crazy though. This is definitely the right call to be here.
Why you ain't never alone? Yeah, why you always such a road? Used to always stay at home, be a good girl, you was in the zone. Ever since I left the city.
Get your bag, brother.
Thank you, boss.
That's a good street performer right there. I feel like SoFi is a pretty polarizing stadium, but I was impressed by it. The indoor-outdoor setup is really unique, and the only other time I really experienced that was at the Intuit Dome the night before. Actually going to both back-to-back days, it was pretty obvious to me that the Intuit Dome modeled itself off of SoFi a pretty decent amount. I also do have a SoFi account, so I was able to get some perks in the stadium. I got access to the SoFi Lounge for free to get a different view of the game and enter some raffles I didn't win. I want to know what an impossible selfie is. Let's see where I ended up. Whoa. Cool. One of the things I've always been the most curious about SoFi Stadium is how many road fans come into these games. Because we all know the Rams and Chargers fan bases are. Looking around, I would say it's been like 80-20 Rams fans today, which is honestly a little bit better than I thought. This crowd doesn't feel that far off of a regular NFL game. It probably helps that this game is pretty meaningless for both teams, and the Rams, I think, do have more fans than the Chargers. But still, shout out to the Rams faithful. Your bar was pretty low, but you still got over it. In order to make it to Anaheim in time, it was pretty tough to make a dedicated video here. I tried pulling out the old how fast can I leave challenge, but I learned the hard way when the quarterback kneels out the game well before it ends. It makes it pretty hard to execute. Welcome to LA, everybody. We begin this trip by seeing how fast we can leave SoFi Stadium from the very top row. With 5 levels of seating, beating our record is going to be extremely tough, and getting under our minute line isn't going to be much easier. But all we know on this page is a college try. Let's see what we can do. The zeros, here we go. I do this game on a knee is tough. Wow. We might need cross sections here. Come on now. This is impossible. Nonetheless, we were able to get out of there a half hour before the puck dropped in Anaheim. The good news, we could make it to both games. But the bad news, public transit in LA is notoriously terrible, and it would have taken over 2 hours to get there. I had a brand deal to make I would not have completed without an Uber, so we just had to take a $73 L on that. Would have been nice to have a car here, but that would have also added $20 of parking to each location. Be mad that I broke the hook of the video, but tell me a better way to handle it. And now, it's dark out, and we have arrived. Puck dropped about 45 minutes ago, doing better than I thought we would. Let's see what's going on with the Mighty Ducks. First time inside, take it all in together. Seems a little older. It looks nice though, I like the tile. Honestly, the more I walk around, the more I like how this arena looks. It almost doesn't feel like an arena with a tile. I almost want to compare it to like a movie theater, really. Beautiful, gorgeous, love it. I don't think there's too much more to add about the Ducks Arena here. It was a fine experience. It was a $45 ticket, which I feel like is pretty expensive for an average NHL game. One thing I did take away though, now with this trip going to every single major sports stadium in greater LA, I do think this is the best stadium city right now. You get cutting edge with the Clippers and Rams, you get historic with the Dodgers, and I think the Angels and the Ducks are really strong in Anaheim too. And that doesn't even mention places like the Staples Center or the Rose Bowl. This being the US city to host the Olympics makes so much sense to me. And now after coming at 5:45, we are leaving just after 8 o'clock. What a way to blow through $120. But now I feel like, just in the spirit of the video, since I Ubered here, I do have to take public transit back, which is gonna start right here, getting on an Amtrak train to Union Station in LA. I don't think Amtrak really counts as public transit, but no cars is the point of it, more than anything. Only thing now is I didn't stay at this game as long as I'd like to, so I have to wait here for like 50 minutes before the train comes and take another almost 3 hours to get back to my place. I'm not looking forward to this, but it makes for good content, right? Does it? I think it does. Tell me it does. This costed $18 total and was much less than the Uber that now costed $52. Pretty performative and super unnecessary, but it wrapped up our day at $192 and $457 on the whole trip. $187 less than if I was traveling with the car, and $199 less than if I was traveling frivolously. Frivolously. That's how we say it. Day 3 is a little bit less eventful as you only have one game per day to go to now, and that took us out of LA into Sacramento. I did opt to take the bus to the airport this time and got there 4 hours early because I was so done staying at this hostel, which ended up just being dumb as I left my laptop charger and had to go all the way back anyways. This flight was a $34 godsend, and we only spent $2.50 to get from the airport to downtown Sacramento via bus. Here we go, Sac City. And we're actually passing right by the Golden One Center on the way. Who's this on the poster? Jordan McLaughlin? I actually don't know who that is. That's embarrassing. I need to stay tapped in. Darren Fox, Montes Sabonis, DeMar DeRozan. We'll call it even there. I want to get as much of the city in as I can while it's still light out. Sacramento's a little bit underrated, I think. This is my second time here. It feels good. I would say this is the cleanest big city in California. I think that's fair. But after a pretty terrible stay in LA, I threw my frugal strategy out the window for one night and treated myself to a nice $118 Airbnb in downtown Sacramento. If I had a car, I could have snagged something a little bit outside of the city for $66, but driving from LA to Sacramento is actually the most expensive way to do that, and having done the SoCal to NorCal drive twice in my life already, I'm good on that. How was the Kings game though? It legitimately rocked. I feel like Kings fans don't get the credit they deserve for being an elite NBA fan base. Just listen to this crowd for a 500 NBA team. This environment legitimately brought life into my NBA fandom. They even have a 6-man banner up I didn't even know about. I feel like the Seahawks and Texas A&M's 12th man is pretty common knowledge, but the Kings having the same shtick was news to me. This was also by far the best game I went to with a double overtime Kings win, which means we gotta see the beam lit after the game. Always huge for content. My ticket was $41, once again a little bit steeper than I was expecting. I really could not believe 4 games in the NFL game we went to was the cheapest one. But in total, that brought our day to $196 and $653 over the entirety of the trip. We saved $29 not getting an Uber from the airport to downtown, but since the hotel is kind of expensive, the rest of that was all the same. And if we did have our own rented car, our total right now would be at $839. Day 4 though is where things got interesting. We had to get from Sacramento to San Jose, which is just under a 2-hour drive and doesn't have direct flights. But what we do have, a 3-hour and 10-minute train ride. Back on the Amtrak we go. With the beam getting lit last night, I've also been kind of curious in turn how long it takes for it to not be lit. Can tell right now it's not lit. Can also tell it hasn't been dark or lighted out for not super long. Wonder how long it's been between when it got lighted out and when they turned it off. My guess is it gets turned off at like 6 a.m. At the station 15 minutes before the train leaves. Perfect. I gotta use trains more often for content, man. If this is a flight, I'd literally have to be here like 45 minutes earlier. The Sacramento Valley station is in downtown, so no car expenses here, and the ticket on the train was $40. There's very specific situations where trains are the best option of transport, and this is one of them. Even though there is a flight to San Francisco that's just over an hour, by the time you factor in driving to the airport, getting through security, deboarding the plane, getting out of the airport, it would have ended up being about 3 hours anyways, and cost like 5 times as much. We stayed in town walking distance from the train station at $92. It was a pretty iffy motel. If I cared enough to put myself in a hotel downtown, it could have easily been $147. Or if I had a car, I could have stayed a little bit further away for $65. But if you add in parking at the arena, it comes out to almost a wash. That parking was also more than our ticket, as in San Jose, we finally found affordable tickets to a game in California, going to the Sharks game for $6. The Sharks and the Ducks are about the same caliber of team, and I actually thought the SAP Center was nicer than the Honda Center by a little bit. They had the same light show in the seats that the Clippers did, and the Jumbotron in there is pretty new. The age of the arena is about the same, but San Jose is putting more work into theirs year to year. Unfortunately though, all the effort didn't really lead to a great environment. This was one of the more dead pro arenas I went to, and really one of the more dead cities too. So we just wrapped up at the Sharks game, and my hotel is a half-mile away from the arena. To be fair, it's a Tuesday night, but listen to this outside. I've never heard a more dead strip this close to an arena anywhere I've been. This isn't downtown San Jose, but it's not far from it. But like still, look at the amount of cars on the road. It's not even midnight yet. There is nothing. The next day we flew home out of San Francisco and took yet another train to do it. Except this time I learned how to use the Caltrain instead of Amtrak. For sure, one of the worst parts of this whole trip was learning the transit system in every city we went to. Between LA buses, San Francisco buses, Sacramento buses, the Caltrain, Amtrak, I downloaded 5 different apps and loaded money into all of them. If any of you guys are actually going to try to complete this, I cannot stress enough to bring plenty of $1 bills and quarters. The hassle was well worth it though. The day pass for the Caltrain is $16, and one Uber from San Jose to San Francisco airport is $82. The Caltrain also takes you pretty dang close to the airport too, so it wasn't super inefficient like it was in Anaheim. And since I could get on and off the train, I did have some time to kill before my flight in the evening. So we used that to stop in Palo Alto and get some college action too. Stanford is one of my favorite campuses in the country, and it was fun cosplaying as a 4.0 student for an afternoon. I have never ever spent time at a school that is this caliber. I'm very curious where the wind's gonna take us. First thing it's taking us to is a dining hall though, because I'm starving. Kung Flo Panda, nice. It's a pretty solid spread. I just thought it'd be a lot bigger. This is, as far as I can tell, the only spots to get food in the whole place. I'm not gonna hold to you. This is pretty dang good food for a dining hall. It's nothing flashy and probably not worth 20 bucks, but it exceeded my expectations walking in. Definitely the healthiest buffet since I've been here too. I'm gonna try to find the biggest lecture hall to be in. Somewhere I can just blend in really easily. Don't want to draw too much attention. According to what I looked up, this auditorium right here is it. I'm hoping they have class going on. If not, maybe there's some other spots you can slide into. This is it right here. Looks smaller than I thought from the outside. Is anyone in here? Kind of nervous. Just one guy. Conversation was engaged. Scene has been fled. I originally thought I was going to hit a basketball game that night, but I also remembered that I had no hotel and no car and a giant backpack on my back, which is no good for getting in an arena. I tried contacting Stanford Athletics before the trip, who did DM me from the first video I made there. But let this be a lesson that working with these schools is a lot easier said than done, because they did not get back to me. The flight home was $145, bringing our grand total to $1,300 flat if I was taking care of myself. Without the cost of trains and Ubers on the back half, it might look like renting a car was a lot cheaper, but that really wasn't the case. We have not quite factored in the cost of gas, and just looking at the miles traveled going from LAX to Anaheim and back to Sacramento to San Jose to the airport, that is going to total up at 648 miles. Call that a tank and a half of gas, call a tank of gas 50 bucks, tack on $75 to our total. That will make having a car $1,286. That makes it about the same cost and was honestly kind of surprising to me. But of course, we got to know, what did we actually spend? After closing out day 4 and 5 with $301 total spent, that's going to bring a grand total to $954. Total save is at $322. I'll take that. Believe it or not, this is my first time truly breaking down my expenses like this. It feels about right though. I think we probably could have saved $500 if we really thugged it out, got a cheaper Sacramento hotel, and then red-eyed right after the Sharks game to not have to get another hotel. And the other takeaway, oh my, are Ubers expensive. Realistically, the best way to do this probably would have been doing everything exactly the same, except renting a car to go to Anaheim and back when we did that on Saturday. But in conclusion, this is a good exercise for this page and a great exercise for my 2025 tax write-offs. $332 is a lot of money saved for the next trip. And if you keep liking, commenting, and watching more of my videos, we'll have even more money saved up for the next one. Appreciate y'all.